Cerritos is a special place where careful planning and visionary leadership have resulted in one of the most appealing cities in Southern California. In fact, the Los Angeles Times dubbed the people of Cerritos suburban Medicis, as the city has made a great investment in art and culture. This investment is driven by the value Cerritos residents place upon education and culture, and is embodied by the Cerritos Library. The Cerritos Library is the world's first experience library, with themed spaces designed to stimulate patrons' imagination and intellectual curiosity. When planning this amazing facility, city officials gave special consideration to building a collection of artwork to enhance learning opportunities and complement the themed areas within the library. Library patrons first encounter artwork in the beautiful grounds which surround the facility. The city commissioned sculptor Mark Leichliter to create this monumental sculpture called Tsunami. Mark Leichliter, an up-and-coming sculptor, has been commissioned by cities and companies such as AutoNation. His sculpture Tsunami depicts a seismic sea wave and includes an 8-foot-tall disc of stainless steel and 2 cast bronze wave shapes.
Well, the initial concept that I had for the Tsunami piece, when I realized where it was going to be placed and the scale that it needed to be, was trying to give some sort of feel to the piece that spoke of Southern California and maybe Cerritos a little bit in particular. In dealing with some of the renderings that had been done of how the building was going to look, we realized that the natural color and surface of bronze is very similar to the titanium that the building is clad in. The emotions that I think my work is most about are sort of a calming influence. I want things to be a lot more, I don't want them to be so like discordant, because I think there's enough of that in the world. And I think that, especially like with the Tsunami piece, I wanted it to be a contemplative, sort of meditative sort of piece where it was a very quiet and serene kind of piece that allowed people to calm down.
Another art piece located in the Civic Center is the colorful Amaryllis, composed of sculptures by Sharles set in a lovely fountain. Sharles has been a professional artist since 1967, and he has created dozens of public commissions for organizations such as the Loveland Museum and Gallery and the Omaha Botanical Gardens. Sharles is the official sculptor of the American Endangered Species Foundation, and he was commissioned by the city to create this delightful piece.
The city of Cerritos contacted me in developing some very large, bright botanical sculptures for the entrance or area of their library. The first concept was some early rough drawings that I did and turned them into wax models, which caught the attention of the city of Cerritos. I originally developed these sculptures in miniature. The Amaryllis sculptures are really fantasy pieces and highly surrealistic. I developed a lot of water jets in these sculptures because it's really an important concept of feng shui to have running water in the entrance of a building. The images themselves are related to the 4 directions of feng shui and designed to bring wealth and prosperity to the city of Cerritos.
A nationally renowned feng shui expert, Angi Ma Wong, guided the placement of each sculpture according to the ancient Chinese system of aligning human energy with nature, earth, and the universe.
In creating these Amaryllis fountain sculptures, I'm hoping the public will be able to capture some of the sense and tranquility of water gardens in the sense of feng shui.
Cerritos Civic Center is also home to the piece Dolphins by sculptor George Lundeen. Lundeen's work has won top awards from the National Sculpture Society, the National Academy of Design, and Allied Artists of America. Lundeen also sculpted the popular Joy of Music sculpture that is located at the Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts.
The artwork I create has a lot of different subject matter, but most of it is realism. I try to pick subjects that I enjoy doing, whether it's people and, of course, individual people, or animals that I really enjoy, such as the dolphins we have here in Cerritos. The dolphin sculpture has much more of an abstract idea for me. It's more of the movement of the dolphins. What I really tried to get in these dolphins was the fact that these animals are constantly moving. And then I also wanted to get the idea that this is a family of dolphins moving. So I have the pod all jumping at the same time with the idea of this one other dolphin right in front, kind of leading the way, and then tried to get the movement of the water underneath, which in this particular setting, in this placement, I probably didn't need all that water other than to support it with the bronze abstract idea of the water, because they've thrown so much water at it that part of the fountain kind of disappears underneath the dolphins. I was really pleasantly surprised when we found the kids all playing in the water and the water shooting all over the dolphins, and it really worked well.
With its shimmering titanium skin and sinuous lines, the Cerritos Library is a stunning example of architecture as art. Cerritos Library's futuristic design was created by Jim Nardini of Charles Walton and Associates.
I would say that the architecture is most likely a form of, I don't want to call it modern architecture or postmodern, but I think it is more of a volumetric type of architecture, an architecture that reads as volumes and shapes rather than as buildings. If I had to put a name on it, I'd most likely call it a more of a collision architecture, an architecture of collision of shapes.
The Cerritos Library's interior space opens with an area called Main Street, which features a 15,000-gallon aquarium teeming with colorful fishes, and a video wall with a changing display of video art pieces. Main Street leads to a great room, and the intersection of these spaces is highlighted by a coruscating sculpture by internationally celebrated glass artist Dale Chihuly. Throughout his career, Chihuly has been at the forefront of new ideas in glassmaking and has single-handedly popularized the art glass movement in the United States and abroad. Pieces by Chihuly can be found in the permanent collections of more than 200 museums worldwide, including the Smithsonian American Art Museum. It took a team from Chihuly Studios 3 full days to assemble almost 400 individual pieces that form the 6 sconces in the Cerritos Library.
I don't know if I chose glass or whether glass chose me. I mean, I remember that as a little kid going down the beach and finding Japanese fishing floats. I was always fascinated with glass and churches, but I don't know, I don't know the real reason why it happened. But I started seriously working with glass just about 40 years ago now. It's hard to explain all the techniques that I work with in glass. But the primary technique is glass blowing. I mean, there are a lot of ways to work with glass. Casting, slumping, engraving, but really my forte is glass blowing. The best way I could describe the piece really is that it sort of looks like anemones on the wall. And there are big 5 or 6 big clumps of these of different scale. And the colors that I use in this case are golds and silvers and some oxblood, some ambers, and little specks of other colors. It could have taken on a different color, but at the time, that's what felt right to me, and that's the way I like to work. Different projects, of course, go in different color ranges. This seemed appropriate for me. When you come into the library and you look up there and see the piece, for a second, it might appear that something from nature had gone up on the wall. And people also can respond to that because they like things from nature, and they can, even though it's abstract, they have a feeling. They can make a judgment about whether they like it or not, or whether they're interested in looking at it. In terms of what type of emotion, am I trying to communicate with the Cerritos piece? I really can't answer that very well. I just hope that people can come in and enjoy it, get a certain amount of joy from the piece, and get not everybody will like it. Some people will like it, some people won't. I hope that a lot of people do like it and that are able to enjoy it, and it'll be interesting to see what they feel that my inspiration was for the project.
To help guide the city's selection of artwork for the Cerritos Library's other interior spaces, consultants Tressa Miller and Irene Drury were hired as advisors. Miller and Drury each brought 30 years of wide-ranging experience to the project.
Once artists were identified and some preliminary selections had been made, we went to visit each of the artists and to look at their materials. We gathered information from all of the artists, and then out of a pool of 50 artists, we brought to the design team to look at their work. We selected 25 artists to bring to the city and to show to the city manager and the city council. From the 25, the city council chose approximately 12 artists to continue looking at.
The works of art that are found in the Cerritos Library are by quite a diverse group of artists, both in style, experience, and also in the age range. But one thing that they have in common is they are all collected by major museums, and the work is respected by art historians, and there isn't a piece here that the city can't be proud of owning.
Cerritos Library's Great Room features arts and craft style furnishings and inviting reading areas. Within this area is an intriguing landscape called Las Virgenes Valley by artist Bruce Everett. The city commissioned this piece as landscape imagery was a typical subject for California paintings found in craftsman-era homes of the early 20th century. However, Everett's piece differs from those of the arts and crafts movement in the large scale of the painting. The piece is 13 feet tall by 10 feet wide and was installed by a team of specialists working with a lift.
Bruce Everett, who did the 13-foot-high landscape, had never worked that large. And we had to encourage him to make him believe that he could do it. And we knew he could, and he did well. And I think that it's a very successful painting.
Everett is a professor at California State University Northridge, and his work is in the collections of numerous corporations, the Palm Springs Desert Museum, and Yale University.
My largest influence probably would be just being attracted to something very strongly, not necessarily other art or art movements or theory or anything of that sort, but I'm kind of a muse-oriented artist. That is, I'm driven by things that I see. I've developed a quality of painting that kind of expresses the mood I'm in, the freer brushwork, the love of texture. And I find that actually I'm back to abstraction again. It's an odd thing that when I'm painting close up to a painting, especially as large as this one, the brushwork and the textures are exactly what I was doing when I was doing abstract expressionism. But the way it all fits together comes into reality. So I have the luxury of being an abstract painter and a realist at the same time. What I'm hoping to achieve in the painting is the same feeling I have when I'm in that space, being infinitely large and infinitely small at the same time.
The Cerritos Library's young adult collection is located in a room with an Art Deco theme. The colors and decorative details of this room were carefully considered by artist Karen Koblitz when she designed this dynamic piece called Nonfiction. Koblitz teaches at the University of Southern California, and her work has been collected by numerous prestigious museums, including the Shine Joseph International Museum of Ceramic Art.
The Art Deco area was very lively and full of color and very thematically driven. The artist that we eventually focused on was Karen Koblitz, who was able to take from the colors and the Art Deco theme and create something very special that was directed toward young adults who would be using the area.
The piece that I've created for the library, the title is Nonfiction, and non is in lowercase letters and fiction in uppercase letters because it's about both imagination and things grounded in fact. It's made with young adults in mind, since it goes into the young adult section of the library. So the still life objects that I've placed upon it are objects that relate to science and history and imagination, the future for young people, globalization. This piece is totally site-specific, made with the library and space in mind. Also, everything was made by hand. All the tiles I press molded and made the original tiles out of clay, and then came up with a plaster mold of them. And the palette is one of rich colors that I feel works with the space. I think that my work conveys my love of the material, my love of color and pattern, a little bit of humor. I have a lot of fun when I work. It brings me much joy and fulfillment, and I think that's evident in the work.
A World Traditions area is located above the Art Deco room. The Art Deco theme is continued, but with an added Asian influence, in a style known as Shanghai Art Deco. This area includes materials in 10 different languages and highlights the cultural diversity of Cerritos. Here you'll find a serene watercolor painting entitled Spring Breeze, which was commissioned by the city from artist Jim Zhang. Zhang's work has been exhibited at the Pacific Asia Museum, Laguna Museum, and the UCLA Hammer Museum.
Most of my paintings are traditional Chinese watercolor. Most Chinese paintings are done on rice paper. The simple reason is rice paper in most cases are very absorbed. It will give you lots of textures. For example, if you look at the tree trunks of my work, sometimes you would see something I call the flying white. Those white voids, the space in between strokes. It basically gives you lots of textures, and also the color wash is very unique. I find inspiration for my painting mostly through observing or watch nature, because nature is permanent, but it's also changing constantly. So wherever I go, I would look nature for inspiration for my work. The subject is sort of like a nostalgic look of where I grew up in China. So it's near the Yangtze River. But many people find it is universal. Some people from different places would think this is their backyard.
I view the art as a very quiet moment to be experienced amidst all the new information that's available, and that is, I'm sure, very comfortable for younger people. I think an older population that is perhaps not as comfortable with computers or where the world is really going is just becoming acquainted with this. Many of them, I'm sure, through the library itself. My feeling is that the artwork gives you a moment of contemplation, meditation, time to slow down and to really think about what is before you, and to sort of give yourself a moment of not necessarily quiet, but respite.
A landing near the World Traditions area features a conceptual piece called Two Figures by artist Sunja O. Kim. Kim is an instructor of art at California State University, San Bernardino, and her work has been collected by the Robert V. Fullerton Museum and by museums in Korea and Japan.
Sunja O. Kim, who did the two-part sculpture, uses industrial material, uses acid on the metal, and so you end up with a certain amount of control, but quite a lot of chance. And she addresses issues about yin and yang, about male and female, and all of this is involved in this one piece.
I'm trying to unite those painting and sculpture. So some days say, is it painting or is it sculpture? So I'm playing those ambiguity too. The curves is part of human body. It's more like maybe the female body. So that's why the title coming from Two Figures. Frontal view becomes painting. it's just rectangle. But when you go side angle, you could see the beautiful curves. It's become the sculpture. So I'm playing not physically working on surface and form, but also the visually communicating those two playing together, sculpture and painting.
The second floor of the Cerritos Library houses the reference collection and features a futuristic theme. Pieces by internationally renowned artist Lita Albuquerque are located in this area. Albuquerque's work is in the collections of several American embassies. Her work is also represented in the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles, the Orange County Museum of Art, and the Whitney Museum of Art.
People like Lita Albuquerque, who are thinking about issues of both past and present ideas and how they perhaps come together in a very romantic way, and someone who made an effort to research the languages spoken in the Cerritos community and brings that element into her work.
The piece that I'm creating for the Cerritos Library is called Global Octave, and it's made up of 8 panels that are honeycomb aluminum. That is a space-age material. It's actually used for the shuttle. And on that are inscribed a numerical sequence done in the media, and then over that is 23 karat gold, essentially. And 4 of the panels are new gold, and then the other 4 have been, I'm using the idea of information coming both from the future and from the past. And so 4 of the panels look very ancient. They look like they could have been found, you know, they were buried and they were found, like, and so that's what I was doing with that. And then on top of that, they each have a circular disc with the letters and the words light, energy, and information. What I'm trying to do is pinpoint a very interesting time that we're in right now, where there's been an incredible convergence of information coming in from different fields, one of them being quantum physics, where they're really finding out that there is no such thing as matter, that it's space, you know, that's all vibrations, that it's electromagnetic. The auric field painting, which is the painting that's over the staircase, the disc is, of course, like the light of the moon, essentially. It's more of an experiential piece. It's more about just being with it and feeling what it seems like you're watching a natural occurrence, even though it's a painting.
The contemporary forms and primary colors in the Cerritos Library's second floor are reflected in Al Held's vibrant painting, Quattrocentric 14.
The high-tech floor, we have a very large space. We had high energy, high color, all man-made materials. And I think Tressa and I almost spontaneously at the same moment said, Al Held. And the problem in that case was not that we couldn't identify the artist. He doesn't do commissions. So we had to find a piece, which we eventually did. So it became a research project, an existing piece that filled all of the qualifications we were looking for.
Held was a professor at Yale University, and his work appears in the collections of museums around the world. Peter Hopkins' shimmering mixed media piece called Capital Project, covered site LI number 1, is located near Held's painting. Hopkins' work has been exhibited throughout Europe, including shows in Paris and Vienna, and his work is in numerous public and private collections.
The recycled materials, in terms of Peter Hopkins' work, also have a hidden dimension of what is seen and what is unseen. At first you see the beautiful surfaces that capture your attention, and then you realize that there are materials beneath those beautiful surfaces. So he's interested in the inside and the outside, and we can think about that in terms of our own human existence, how we appear on the outside, who we are on the inside, and how we need to educate ourselves and to learn from those experiences.
A conference center is located on Cerritos Library's third floor. 2 striking paintings are found on this level. This untitled piece by Pat Steer is part of a series of paintings she created in the 1980s. Steer's work is in the permanent collection of the Irish Museum of Modern Art and numerous other world-class museums.
Pat Steer, who did the water study on the 3rd floor, reaches very far back into history in her work, back to Leonardo da Vinci and his water studies.
This beautiful painting of oil on canvas is called Above the Clouds. The piece was commissioned by the city from artist Hung Liu. Liu is a professor of art at Mills College, and her work is featured in the collections of the Dallas Museum of Art, the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and numerous universities and cities.
First of all, I was trained in China. I came here late '84. In China, we had this style called the socialist realism. So we copied a lot from former Soviet Union. So everything done in a very realistic way. Probably you still can see from my paintings. But since I came to US, I felt I don't have to abandon my skill in terms of rendering all the stuff. But conceptually, I realized even if I can do perfect human figures or landscapes or still life is not enough. So over the years, I have developed my way of doing my work. It's called Above the Clouds. You think the image is 2 children from probably the turn of 20th century, still with the queues and the braids. After school, they're doing homework in a very actually shabby kind of situation, a tiny, could be a stool as a little desk. They're doing, they sitting there like Indian sitting, doing their homework, but with all the concentration. And then I don't want just put them in a very, regular, realistic background. I want them to be surrounded by their heritage. And then above that, I added lotus flowers, as if those flowers came from, the clouds, grew, above the clouds, because lotus flower in Chinese, the pronunciation he meaning the same pronunciation as a peace, serenity. My washes create some kind of a veil, so this visually you can see something in focus, something off focus. That's also associated with photography, probably. Also the metaphor for our memory.
The whole experience of putting art in the Cerritos Library was a discovery, not only of the artwork, but of each individual's own creativity.
The diversity of artwork on display at the Cerritos Library not only provides visitors with a unique experience in which to expand their horizons, but also represents the steadfast commitment made by the city of Cerritos towards the cultural advancement of their community.